Have you ever experienced this feeling? One day you wake up and suddenly realize you no longer belong to the places, the people, or the conversations that once felt familiar. No drama, no arguments, no one did anything wrong. It's just that you changed, and that change begins to make the world around you feel smaller. And instead of being celebrated, you find yourself feeling lost, misunderstood, even labeled as strange. Carl Jung calls this one of the most dangerous stages of the spiritual journey, because growth not only moves you into a new life, it also forces you to leave behind what once made you feel at home. You're not trying to separate, but you can no longer blend in either. You're simply becoming yourself, and that alone is enough to change everything. In today's video, we will step into this profound journey. The 7 dangerous stages you go through when you outgrow everyone around you. Not to scare you, but to help you understand that what is happening to you is natural, necessary, and a sign of an expansion that not everyone has the courage to walk through. If you're feeling lonely, out of sync, or no longer like anyone else, it's very likely you're exactly where you need to be in your growth journey, and this video is for you. Number 1, the strange experience of awakening. You change, they don't. There is a very strange moment in the journey of inner growth that Carl Jung describes as a silent shift within the soul. A moment that begins everything. Yet no one teaches you what to do with it. You have no clear signs, no miraculous beam of light shining down, no one telling you you're stepping into a new stage. There is only a very small, very subtle feeling, but strong enough to shake the entire experience of your life. You realize you are no longer the person you were yesterday. It is difficult to put into words. You still do your daily activities, eat, work, talk, but something feels different inside, as if a layer of mist has settled over the old world and you see through it. Things that used to make you laugh loudly now only make you smile softly. Conversations that were once your mental nourishment now feel like rereading a chapter you know too well. You're not sad, not bored. You just no longer resonate. This is the first sign of awakening in Jung's terms, when the unconscious begins sending signals to the surface of consciousness. No warnings, no instruction manual, just a vague feeling as if life is telling you it's time to look deeper. Then you begin to notice things you previously overlooked. On an ordinary afternoon, the sunlight through the window suddenly looks strangely beautiful, as if calling you inward. A simple conversation makes you hear the layers beneath the words. An old story suddenly carries new meaning. You're not trying to become deeper. You just see, like a caterpillar in the stage before forming a cocoon. It hasn't flown, hasn't transformed, hasn't been separated from its kind. It still lives its normal life, but inside its structure has already begun to change. Micro vibrations are happening that no one else sees. And these silent changes are the beginning of a great transformation. Human beings are the same. Awakening does not come from glorious moments, but from subtle tremors that only you can feel. You start quietly revisiting the things you once believed, pursued, or considered truth. Not to deny them, but to understand more deeply why you once held on to them. According to Jung, in this first stage, the real danger is not losing your sense of belonging to others, but losing the familiarity you once had with yourself. It's here that Jung's teaching echoes like a profound explanation. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. You are meeting yourself again in a completely new form, a self you have never known before. You no longer know who you are, and that is the first step of rebirth. A girl once shared that after many years of chasing her family's expectations, she suddenly felt as if everything in her life had stopped. No crisis, no failure, no one hurt her. But one morning as she looked into the mirror, her own face felt strange. Not because her appearance changed, but because there was a look in her eyes she had never seen before. The look of someone waking up from a long dream. "I don't know what I want," she said, "but I know I no longer want what I used to want anymore." That is the beginning of every transformation. That moment can easily confuse you. You cannot put your feelings into words because no one has ever taught you the language of this stage. You cannot share it because you yourself don't understand what you're going through. You only know that your old life no longer carries the weight it once did, and something invisible yet profound is calling you from within. There is a kind of subtle danger here, a wavering of identity. It's not that you lose others, but that you lose the version of yourself that once helped you fit in. A part of you dissolves like mist, and you don't yet know what will be born to replace it. But Jung always reminds us, when something within you begins to shake, it is not a sign of collapse, but a sign of expansion. And in this expansion, the only thing you need is honesty with what you are feeling. Even if those feelings have no name yet, if you are in that stage, vague, shifting, no longer aligned with who you used to be, trust that you are not lost. You are exactly where transformation begins. Number 2, the true nature of growth. Always painful and vulnerable. And when the first part of awakening quietly opens, you step into another truth. This is when the process of inner growth begins to squeeze you from the inside. If the previous stage felt like a gentle calling of the soul, then here the journey begins to demand a real price, the price of pain and vulnerability. Growth, in the way Jung describes it, has never been a comfortable path. It's not about becoming stronger in the forged in fire sense, but about facing the softest, most fragile places within yourself. The image many psychoanalysts use, and Jung himself hinted at in his metaphors about transformation, is that of a lobster shedding its shell. When the old shell becomes too tight, it must abandon the only protection that once kept it safe. At that moment, it exposes a soft, helpless body, a perfect prey in the ocean. It cannot swim fast, cannot hide, cannot defend itself. It can only endure. If it does not shed its shell, it will die from being unable to grow. But when it sheds, it risks dying from being too weak. Growth always comes with twin dangers. Humans are the same. When we begin shedding old shells, an outdated belief, a no longer serving value, a relationship that once held us together, inside we become strangely fragile. You can no longer return to the safety of your old version. Yet, you don't have a new shell to protect you either. And this is the point where many people panic. Not because of outside harm, but because of identity confusion. Who am I in this stage? Where do I belong now? A viewer once shared her story with SYC Soul after leaving a job she had been in for more than 10 years. Everyone thought she did it well. Many admired her. Her family was proud, but deep inside she felt like she was living someone else's life. Quitting was anything but easy. After her last day at work, she went home, sat down on the couch, and realized she didn't know what to do next. No job to introduce herself with, no meeting schedule to fill her days. "I felt naked," she said, "like the shell that kept me alive for years suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a weak person I'd never seen before." But then she said this with a peaceful smile. "I was scared, but I also knew it was the right kind of fear." And that is the essence of growth. It doesn't just ask you to change. It asks you to endure the emptiness between the old and the new. That stage makes you feel like you're standing at the edge of a foggy field. You don't clearly see which direction is right, only that stepping back is impossible and stepping forward is unclear. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. In that strange state, you become vulnerable in a very deep way. A casual comment can make you think all day. A small rejection can shake you. Not because you're weaker, but because the old protective structure has been dismantled to make room for a new one forming. This vulnerability is a sign of deep change, not collapse. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." You cannot expand yourself without sacrificing your comfort zone, and no one truly grows without feeling like they've lost the life that once felt familiar. And this is the real danger when you outgrow those around you. Before you lose others, you lose the version of yourself that once made you feel like you belonged. With no identity to cling to, no role to anchor you, you are forced to live in temporary spaces where everything feels unstable. But that instability is the instability of rebirth, not destruction. So if you feel weaker, more sensitive, as if all your defenses have disappeared, don't mistake this for going the wrong way. On the path of outgrowing, vulnerability is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of expansion because before the new shell forms, you must face yourself in your rawest form. And that rawness is not here to hurt you, but to prepare you to become strong enough for the next stages, where you will begin seeing things others have not yet seen. If you are in the stage of no longer who you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming, share your story in the comments, not only for your own relief, but so that others who are silently going through the same darkness know they are not alone. Number 3. The true meaning of outgrow. Not being better, but seeing what others haven't seen. The most dangerous part of outgrowing others is not that you become different, but that you misunderstand your own difference. Many people, when they begin to see more deeply, accidentally fall into the illusion that they are above others. But true growth, in Jung's view, is never about stepping above others. It is about stepping deeper into yourself. Outgrowing is not being better, smarter, or more awakened than others. It simply means you begin to see things they have not yet seen, not yet at this time. Like walking into a dark room, your eyes gradually adjust, and you see outlines, shapes, details that someone who just entered cannot see. No one is lower than you. They are simply standing at a different rhythm of the journey. This is why Jung's most crucial warning is, do not let inner growth become the soil where spiritual arrogance grows. One of the clearest signs that you're outgrowing people is when you begin questioning things that were once considered truth. Values such as success defined by the masses, status, praise, safety, no longer hold the same power. Not because you reject them, but because you see they no longer fully represent meaning. You perceive the emptiness in chasing material things to fill inner voids, and you realize happiness no longer needs to be proven by any external measure. Jung once said, "The greatest and most important problems of life can never be solved, only outgrown." What he meant is, you don't defeat problems by force, but by becoming bigger than them. And when you outgrow the problems that once trapped you, the way you see the world begins to change quietly, irreversibly. The danger lies here. When you start seeing clearly, you think you are right and others are wrong. But the truth is, no one is wrong. Each person sees life through the depth their consciousness is currently at. Growth doesn't give you the right to stand above others. It only gives you a new responsibility to live honestly with what you see without judging those who haven't seen it yet. A friend of mine once fell into this exact trap. After a powerful awakening, she began seeing others as if they were asleep and herself as the only one awake. She spoke with an air of superiority, resisted feedback, and gradually saw the people around her as lower. But then a friend told her honestly, "You talk about liberation, but you sound like you're standing on a podium." That moment shocked her because she realized she had not transcended the ego. She had simply let the ego wear a new costume. That is what Jung always warned. The ego will use even awakening to feed itself. And she saw an important truth. Outgrowing doesn't make you above anyone. It demands that you become more humble and more honest with yourself. The image from Greek philosophy that Plato described is the perfect mirror for the nature of outgrowing. The one who steps out of the cave is the first to see the real world, light, colors, the true forms of things. But the danger does not appear when he sees the truth, only when he returns. He carries light in his eyes that the others in the cave have never known. They view him with suspicion, even hostility, because what he says threatens the belief system they built their lives upon. If the one who leaves the cave becomes arrogant, believing he is the only one who knows, he will face even greater resistance. But if he understands that they are not wrong, they simply have not seen, he preserves his clarity. That story is not teaching us that the one who sees truth is higher, but that truth only has value when you return with it while remaining humble, compassionate, and patient. The one who sees the light isn't better than the rest. He simply walked half a step ahead. And because he walked ahead, he must not turn the light into a weapon for the ego. And that is the most delicate lesson of outgrowing. Not using that light to separate yourself, but to return with deeper humility. Because the truly grown person is not the one who sees first, but the one who keeps a gentle heart even after seeing more. Number 4. How people around you react when you change. And from the moment you understand that outgrowing is not being higher, but seeing deeper, you step into a stage few people talk about. But Jung warned clearly about, when you change, the world around you will not stand still to celebrate it. On the contrary, it will react, sometimes gently, sometimes violently, because your inner transformation shakes the structures others rely on. The first thing that usually happens is that they try to pull you back, not because they are bad, but because your change threatens their sense of safety. When you no longer care about old conversations, no longer feel excited about the values the group once shared, they feel disconnected. You suddenly become a mirror reflecting back what they haven't dared to face. So they say, "You've changed," as if it were an accusation. But the truth is, you didn't change. You simply stopped pretending to be like them. Some people will distance themselves from you. They find you strange, unpredictable, sometimes no longer fun in the way they are used to. You gossip less, complain less, no longer want to drown in meaningless distractions. To those who still live within the old mindset, where comfort comes from repeating the familiar, your change feels like a migration they have no desire to join. Instead of walking with you, they choose a different direction to find people more like them. Because when you leave a system everyone believes is truth, you unintentionally touch their weakest spot, the fear that what they believe might not be real. The reaction of people around you can be compared to the behavior of fish in a tank. When one fish grows larger and swims differently, the others don't follow it out of curiosity. They try to pull it back into the center to maintain group stability. The change of one individual shakes the whole system. Humans are the same. We don't live only by personal consciousness, but also by the unconscious rhythm of the collective. From a behavioral science perspective, this reaction comes from the threat response, a biological reaction when the nervous system perceives something unusual. When you change, especially from within, those close to you sense it through small signals: calmer eyes, a more grounded energy, fewer but more meaningful words. Their unconscious registers this shift as a disruption in group equilibrium. The brain, especially the amygdala, reacts with alertness or resistance, not because they hate you, but because they don't know how to handle what they don't understand. But the truth is, you are not responsible for making them understand. Because the outgrowing journey, according to Jung, is not a negotiation with the world, but a rebirth within your inner life. A very real example is the story of a woman I once worked with. She used to be the soul of every gathering, always present when friends needed her. But after a life-changing event, she began therapy, meditation, and spent long periods reflecting on herself. Within a few months, she changed profoundly. She spoke less, stopped pleasing others, and stopped attending old social circles. Her friends said she had become stuck up, distant, hard to read. One even texted her, "Do you think you're above us now?" She was deeply hurt, but later sighed, "It's not that I think that. I just don't want to hurt myself anymore just to fit in. That is the true nature of outgrowing. It's not that you leave them, but that you stop leaving yourself. Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And when you begin facing your own soul, you'll notice that the world becomes strangely sensitive to your inner movements. The more honest you become, the more unsettled they feel. The more independent you become, the more they try to verify their place in your life. And eventually you realize their reaction does not define you. It only reflects how ready or unready they are to change with you. Your task is not to convince them, but to keep walking gently and truthfully in the direction your soul is calling you. Because ultimately, the greatest danger is not that others leave you, but that you abandon yourself just to keep them close. If this part touches you, if you have ever seen people react just because you dared to become yourself, press like for this video. Not just to support SYC Soul, but to remind yourself that your growth does not need to be understood by everyone, only honored by you with the courage to continue. Number 5. Why you become lonely. Because you and they no longer speak the same language. But at this point, have you ever wondered what happens when you have already outgrown everything old, yet still pretend to be who you used to be just to keep peace with the people around you? This is the most subtle trap of inner growth. When your inner world has changed, but your outer world forces you to put on the old mask, say the old things, appear excited about the old conversations as if nothing inside you has awakened. This is the state Jung calls splitting of the self, when the soul has moved to a new chapter, but the social world keeps you stuck in the old one. Many people choose silence, living two lives so they don't lose the relationships they once considered important. They act normal, nod along to beliefs they no longer hold, pretend to enjoy conversations that no longer touch them. But that silence is dangerously exhausting. They burn out from constantly performing like an actor who never gets to leave the stage. They internally split themselves, waking up each day feeling untrue to who they are. And worst of all, they betray the truth they have already seen, a truth that cannot be returned from once awakened. I once knew a woman named Lisa who fell into exactly that spiral. After a powerful awakening, reading deeply about psychoanalysis, practicing meditation, cutting away old habits, she felt like a different person. But when she was with her old friends, she didn't dare talk about what she was learning, didn't dare share her new clarity, even forced herself to laugh at superficial stories she once followed along with. "I was afraid they would think I was weird," she said. So I kept pretending I hadn't changed, but every time she pretended, she felt something deep inside her being crushed. One day, after returning home from a gathering, Lisa burst into tears, not because anyone had treated her badly, but because she had treated her emerging self badly. This is the most subtle tragedy of outgrowing. You no longer belong to the old place, but you are not yet confident enough to stand in the new one. And in that space in between, you are torn in two. This is reflected very clearly in the film Black Swan. The character Nina tries to preserve the image of being perfect, obedient, predictable that everyone wants her to be. But inside her is another part, fierce, wild, authentic, that wants to live. When Nina tries to play her old self, she splits. One part wants freedom. One part must pretend to be obedient. The more she forces herself to be normal, the more she loses control. That is why she collapses. She did not go mad because she changed. She went mad because she tried to stop herself from changing. Not everyone falls into such extremes, but the mechanism is the same. When you suppress the part of you that has already grown just to fit into the old environment, the unconscious will rebel. You will feel tired for no reason, suffocated in familiar interactions, restless in small talk. These signs are not adversities. They are the body's way of saying this is no longer your home. Jung believed that one of the greatest dangers of spiritual growth is spiritual bypassing, When a person changes internally but uses new knowledge to deny their true feelings, or changes within but does not dare change their actions. They know they no longer belong at meaningless gatherings, yet they still go to fit in. They know their mind needs silence, yet they drown themselves in noise to avoid being called different. They know they no longer believe in old beliefs, yet they nod along to stay accepted. This is not humility. This is fear of being left behind. But the truth is gentler than you think. You are not lonely because no one understands you, but because you and they no longer speak the same language. That does not make anyone good or bad. When one consciousness expands, it cannot shrink back to fit an old frame. The loneliness you feel now is simply a sign that you are stepping into another plane of existence, where those who share your frequency, depth, and way of seeing life are slowly appearing ahead, right when you're ready to step forward. The most important thing now is not to force yourself to be your old self just to be accepted, nor to try proving that you have changed. Allow yourself to grow in silence. Those who belong to your frequency will stay without you needing to hold on. Number 6, the mandatory solitude stage, the dark night of the soul. And from the moment you no longer depend on the recognition of anyone, the journey enters a new stage. The stage Jung considered the most dangerous test of inner growth, the dark night of the soul. This is the stretch where every old crutch falls away, every mask loses its power, and every sense of familiarity disappears. You no longer resonate with old conversations. You find no joy in the habits that once made you feel like you belonged. But the most dangerous part is not that others leave you, but that you feel like you're dissolving out of your own self. Jung calls this the withdrawal of energy from the old ego, the moment the soul steps into a higher plane and forces the old self to die so the new one can be born. This is no longer the social loneliness of the previous stage. This is spiritual emptiness where you feel as if you are falling into a bottomless void with no anchor, no direction. Many people describe this stage as wandering through fog. Everything familiar looks foreign. Every belief once certain suddenly collapses. The outer world continues normally, but inside you the ground is splitting open. Jung once wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." And indeed, to truly grow, you must pass through the land without light, where the soul is forced to face the void within. In a Jungian therapy session, I met a woman named Clara who had spent nearly 15 years living according to her family's expectations. Stable job, proper marriage, a life that disappointed no one. But after a major upheaval, everything she relied on slipped from her hands. The marriage ended. Her work lost meaning. Her friends no longer understood her. Clara said she did not feel free, as people often imagine when leaving old confines. Instead, she felt as if she had shed the skin that once protected her. "I don't know who I am," she said. "And the scariest thing is, I don't know who I'm becoming." For months, her life was a swirl of vagueness. No goals, no motivation, no sense of the future. She didn't want to return to her old life, but every new door looked dark. This is precisely the dark night of the soul, where the soul is forced to remain in the long night to reorganize the self. Clara said there were days she sat by the window for hours, not crying, not speaking, just floating in a borderless sea of darkness. But in that darkness, she heard something she had never dared face before. A small but honest voice. "I want to live for myself." To illustrate the danger of this stage, you can look at the journey of singer Adele. After her career reached its peak, she went through a deep inner crisis. Divorce, loss of direction, loneliness amid the spotlight. Adele once said that during that period she felt like an old version of me was dying, but the new version did not yet know how to live. The songs in her album 30 are the voice of the dark night of the soul, painful, dissolving, stripped bare, but also the beginning of a completely different self, stronger, more authentic, and freer. The dark night of the soul has one dangerous trait. If you try to escape it too quickly, you will unconsciously return to your old self, where you are easily accepted, but which is no longer home. If you cling to old people, you will shrink yourself to fit their world. If you try to find answers immediately, you will fight the natural process of the soul. The only thing you need to do is not force yourself to be strong, but allow the old self to dissolve naturally without resistance. When the darkness becomes deep enough, a new light begins to form. Imagine a simple moment, a seed. When it lies underground, it sees no light, no direction, no shape or purpose. But it is precisely that time in the darkness that allows it to split open, unfold, and prepare to become what it was born to be. If you looked into the soil at that moment, you would think the seed was dying. But in truth, it is living in the most honest way. The dark night of the soul is the same, a death on the surface, but the opening of a deeper life. And when you walk through that darkness, you will understand what Jung wanted to express. To become yourself, you must accept losing everything that is no longer you. Darkness is not the end. It is the doorway to the self where you enter a new identity, no longer bound by anyone's expectations, not even your own from yesterday. If this section touches something you have experienced, leave a comment with just one word: return, as a way to affirm to yourself that you are returning to your true self. Even though the journey may be dark, may be long, but always leads you exactly where your soul needs to go. Number 7. The path of reintegration and balance. Returning to yourself without disconnecting from the world. And from the moment you stop seeking understanding from anyone, a new door opens where you step into the highest stage of growth. Reintegration with the world without losing yourself. This is the strangest part of the outgrowing journey. Because after you have walked through loneliness, overcome the need for validation, and built inner strength, you realize you do not need to leave the world, nor do you need to blend into it. You simply stand in your true self and let the world arrange itself around you. Jung calls this the return of the self, the moment the mature self no longer wants to escape, but wants to participate in life with full presence. When entering this stage, you understand that outgrowing is not about separating, but about becoming mature enough to live among others without being absorbed by them. You no longer overreact to praise or criticism, no longer shrink yourself to feel safe, no longer need to display yourself to be seen. You know how to set boundaries without closing your heart. This is the balance only souls who have gone through dissolution possess. I once met a woman named Elena in a workshop on analytical psychology. After years of inner development, she realized that her old friends no longer matched her frequency. Conversations filled with drama, judgment, and petty competition made her feel like she was shrinking. She once feared she was abandoning them, but in reality she was only leaving behind old versions of herself. A year later, she found a new circle. People who knew how to listen, how to speak truth without harming, and how to walk beside each other without trying to control one another. Elena said she didn't seek them out. They came when she became honest enough to attract them. That is what happens when you outgrow one circle and step into one that fits you better. Science calls this social resonance, the natural attraction between people whose neurological rhythms, values, and emotional maturity align. When you change, your unconscious social navigation system changes too. You stop feeling comfortable with chaos, superficiality, and pretense. At the same time, you feel drawn to depth, calm, and meaningful conversations. This is not arrogance. It is the natural restructuring of the brain as you move into a new level of maturity. Imagine you are a river that has traveled far. In the early parts of your journey, you merge with many streams, swirling fast, cloudy, rushed. But the further you go, the clearer, wider, calmer you become. Things that do not belong to you naturally fall behind, not because you want to abandon them, but because you have become a different kind of water. And then you meet the right tributaries, streams that have also passed through hardship, settled their sediments, and found their rhythm. Humans are the same. When you grow up enough, the souls on your frequency will find you like rivers, finding each other. No pushing, no pulling, just joining by recognition. When in this stage you begin to see the world through compassionate eyes, you don't judge those who move slowly. Don't feel annoyed by those who don't understand. You know everyone blooms in their own season. You too were once where they stand now. Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. Each person's journey is different." And when you outgrow a circle, it does not mean they are wrong, only that you have moved to a different stretch of the path. The most beautiful thing is that you no longer try to prove that you are different. Your difference becomes gentle. Your independence no longer feels cold. Your maturity does not demand anyone to keep up. You return to yourself without leaving the world, and you remain in the world without losing yourself. The world begins to perceive you differently, softer but deeper, calmer but stronger. You no longer cling to old relationships out of fear of being alone, nor do you close your heart because of past wounds. You simply choose the right people. Those who don't make you shrink, who don't make you betray yourself, who don't love you conditionally. This is not selfish filtering. This is loyalty to your mature self. Outgrowing is not separation. It is a return to your truth, to your frequency, to the soul that has gone through dissolution, healing, and rebirth. When you stand in that true self, the right connections naturally find you, authentic, deep, and lasting. Conclusion. When you outgrow everyone around you, the journey does not end in separation. It opens into another stage, a quiet place where you begin to hear yourself more clearly than ever. No more noise of expectations, no more roles to maintain, no more pressure to please any old ideology. You look back at your path and realize that what you lost was not other people, but the layers that once took you away from your authentic self. The danger of outgrowing is not that you go so far no one can follow, but that you might mistake temporary solitude for failure. But Jung always reminds us that every deep transformation unfolds in darkness before the light appears. And when that light comes, you don't become a higher version, but a truer version of yourself. If this video helps you understand that no longer fitting in with those around you is not a loss, but a sign that you are growing in the right direction, share it so others who feel lost know they are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to SYC Soul to continue exploring Jung's lessons, where you learn to step into the next chapter of life without losing yourself.